Hi friends, it's Sunday, my favorite day. Um, I am still working through this book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. Tomorrow night, Monday, July 20, I believe, the author is having a book discussion, and he's actually taking questions if you send them ahead of time. So that's at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night, the 20th of July 2020. So I plan to watch that, and I'm very interested in that. Yeah, this book has so much information, and I don't know that I 100% agree with him, but he definitely has given me lots of food for thought. One thing in particular that he talks about in chapter 13 is space, the idea of space racism and space anti-racism. And within that chapter, he talks about the integration of schools. And one thing I really never thought about is that when people talk about integrating schools, what they're really talking about is putting non-white children into primarily white schools, and not the other way around. So we never talk about putting white children into primarily non-white schools as a form of integration, because our country has defined white spaces as superior to black spaces. So that was a really interesting concept to me. I really would like to delve more into this idea of the integration of schools, because when I was in school, when I was a kid, I lived in a primarily black community, and up through junior high, we went to the local community schools. So I walked to school every year. I went to school with kids from my community. I played with those kids after school, and we really didn't think much of it. In fact, friends from that time that I have said the same thing. Black friends that I have also said recently that they didn't really think much about race until high school, which I was surprised to hear, because I thought as a white person maybe that's why I hadn't thought of it. But anyway, I don't know if it was the time period. That would have been the 70s and 80s. If it was our age, if it was the community, I have no idea. But so what happened was, the kids from my community, there was no high school in our community, and so we were bused to 4 area high schools to integrate them. So although I'm white, because the community I lived in was primarily black, we were bused to those high schools to integrate them. And I don't remember the school doing anything to help students to talk about race, to understand each other. The white kids sat at at their own tables in the lunchroom. The black kids sat at their own tables. Even the classes were quite segregated in my experience. And then we all got on our buses and went home. So, yeah. Was it a good thing? I guess. I mean, I'm not for segregation, but at the same time, I think more could have been done. Because really, what happens is the white schools, the white leaders are trying to make the non-white students more like them. And I don't think that's a good thing. So if I've offended anybody, if I'm using terms that are offensive, I am really sorry. I am just trying to figure all this out. Just just like other people. So I'm just telling you my thoughts, my experience, and yeah, I'm still working on being anti-racist. So I am now in chapter 16. I have 3 chapters to go before the end, so I hope to finish that today. So I'm ready for the presentation on Monday. I really would love to think of a question, but I'm not sure I have yet. For the knitting retrospective today, I'm talking about felted slippers. So I'll show you a picture of some felted slippers I made many years ago. They were very fuzzy because I used some yarn called Light Lopey, and it's very fuzzy. And when you felt things, you knit them with 100% wool, and you knit them really big, and then you wash it in hot water, preferably in a top loading washer, repeatedly until all the stitches shrink up and felt. And so I have made a number of knitted slippers. One year I had the idea to make felted slippers for everybody in my family. That was really hard because when you felt things, you never really know exactly what size it's going to be when it's done felting, because it starts really big and then you felt it and it gets really small. Well, it gets smaller. And it's really hard to, it's not an exact science. The year I knit slippers for everybody, I had to knit extra slippers to make sure I had slippers that fit everyone. And one pair was really big and really fuzzy. And I ended up giving those to my neighbor because they fit him. And so, yeah. Anyway, it's fun, and when it works, they're nice and warm. I've made some that have a double sole. I've put a leather sole on the bottom of some of them. That's tricky, but that definitely helps them to last longer. So if you would like to try felting, I recommend it. Found another pair of slippers that I knit for my neighbor. So the ones that were really big and fuzzy that I gave to my neighbor, I gave those to Jeff. And then I guess I knit some for Teresa. So the first picture is before felting, and the second picture is after felting. So those I used, they're called mohair ballet slippers. Um, but I didn't use mohair because I am very allergic to it. All right, I am almost done with the book. I'm going to finish it in time. It really helped me to have a deadline to get it done. One thing that he talks about near the end that I'm really going to have to think about some more because I'm not sure I 100% agree with it, is the idea that the source of racist ideas is not ignorance and hate, but self-interest. Seems to me like it could be all 3 of those. But anyway, I'm about done, and I'm interested to hear what he has to say tomorrow. So if you're interested in growing and learning and having things to think about related to anti-racism, pick up this book because it is well written. It's a quick read, and I highlighted a lot of things, so have a highlighter with you or some sticky notes or both. So I'm hoping that one of the other groups I'm in is going to discuss parts of this book too. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. If you have thoughts about this, or you disagree with something that I said, feel free to let me know.